that song by Carrie Newcomer is a sermon, right? If not now, tell me when. So more than 25 years ago, as a lay person, I gave a sermon that I called Life is Not a Dress Rehearsal. I was just turning 40. I was contemplating the beginning of middle age and frankly feeling quite old. Looking back, I know I had no idea what the next 25 years would bring. At that point, I didn't know I would be an ordained minister. I couldn't have imagined creating and building a new not-for-profit organization. Perhaps more importantly, I didn't know at 40 that the best days and the worst days of my life were still to come. What I did know then at age 40 was that it was up to me to create my own best possible life, and that this time was the only life we have for sure. I resonated to poet Mary Oliver, whose poem I learned back then. What did I want to do with my one wild and precious life? I remember reading at the time this from Rabbi Margot Stein: your second life begins when you realize this is the only life you have. Life is not a dress rehearsal, my friends, is a theological statement. Our understanding of eschatology, that's a big word for which means what happens after this life. Eschatology is a fundamental question in almost all of the world's religion. Indeed, some say that grappling with our very short time of our existence here, that brief time from birth to death, is the reason people throughout history have created and sought religion. The late Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Dr. Forrest Church, in his book about approaching his own death, said, "Religion is our human response to the dual reality of being alive and the certainty of having to die. We are not animal with advanced language or tools as much as we are the religious animal. Knowing that we will die, we question what life means. The answers we arrive at may not be religious answers, but the questions death forces us to ask are at heart religious questions. Where did I come from? Who am I? Where am I going? What is life's purpose? The goal," Forrest wrote, "is to live in such a way that our lives will prove worth dying for." Let me say that again. The goal is to live in such a way that our lives will prove worth dying for. Now, most Unitarian Universalists believe in what theologian, the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parkner, named a realized eschatology. We may not know, or we may not agree on what happens after this life, but surely we all understand that we are called to create, or perhaps co-create with the sacred, a better life on this earth now, and not live as if there was some distant otherworldly future that would be better than this. In the words of one of our most beloved hymns, we are already living on hollow ground. I learned from my first minister and my mentor, the Reverend Frank Hall. He used to say that the only heaven and the only hell we know for sure is what we experience during this time on this earth. Surely, you have all known heaven and you have all known hell in this life. We have learned in real time, haven't we, this past year and a half, that we can't predict the future and that we must be present to the time we have. At my church in Reston during the pandemic, I had many congregants who came or called me and said that they couldn't wait for life to begin again after COVID. I told them that this right now, for better or worse, this is our life. We are being called to live in this present moment as well as we can. If not now, tell me when. We can't wish this time away because it could be the only time we have. The Reverend Dr. William Barber, a hero of mine during the worst days of the pandemic, would open meetings with this: you may only be alive for 48 more hours. How will you use those 48 hours to serve the world? I've heard the principles of Buddhism described with 4 simple statements that you're going to hear from me more than just today. It's show up, speak your truth, do what you do with enthusiasm, and don't get attached to the outcome. Now, like many of you, I do really well with those first 3. I show up, I speak my truth, I do it with all the enthusiasm I have. But that thing, don't get attached to the outcome, that's one of my most difficult spiritual challenges. I have heard it said that fear and faith both arise because our future is unknown. It is easy for me, it may be easy for you too, to go to fear when there is uncertainty. And I remind myself, my religion calls me to remind myself to choose faith in the future. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King once said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the first step. So it is in times like now, when the future is unclear, that we must learn to live with our hearts and our hands open to an unknown future, to awake each day with curiosity about the day ahead, and to have faith, if not in some external place elsewhere, to have faith in ourselves and in each other. To not know, as we will sing in a little while, where we are going, but to have faith that together we will get there. I hope each of you are brave enough to take, in Jesuit priest Father Richard Rohr's words, quote, a long, loving look at the real of your life. How can you commit or perhaps recommit to what is most important in your life? What would be undone if your life ended a year from now? What is your destiny or your inner self calling you to do? And how do you, in Kaladisa's wise words from the 6th century, how do you look well towards this day? For me, that's centered on nurturing my closest relationships, doing meaningful work to help heal the world, and being grateful each morning, like Ben said, for another day, another chance. For me, it's about regular self-care through exercise, time in nature, meditating, drawing, reading, and traveling when I can. You surely have your own list on how you make today count. Sometimes it's about having the courage to begin your own ending. I made the decision last year to leave full-time parish ministry to go back to my work that was calling me on sexuality and religion, even though I didn't know what form that would actually take. That led me to you and this position as your sabbatical minister. It's led me to teaching at the Pacific School of Religion and writing new curriculum for Unitarian Universalist clergy. And I hope that there will be other part-time parish ministries ahead that will leave me more time than my last job did for writing, consulting, and teaching. You may have heard this before. Steve Jobs, in his commencement address at Stanford in 2005, said, when I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, if you live each day as if it's your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. He continued, since then, I have looked in the mirror each morning and asked myself, if today was the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Sometimes, my friends, we have to listen to that no for too many days and make the difficult decision to let go of what we know and take a leap into the unknown. It is very hard to change, but sometimes the courage to change and set new directions is the only way we can live our truest life. For those of us in middle age and beyond, in this second half of life, we have an opportunity we didn't have in the first half of our life. That first half was guided by circumstances of our birth, our family, our geography, how we were raised and who parented us, and we didn't choose any of those. But now in the second half, we have choices. Father Richard Rohr, in his book, Falling Upward, said it this way, words that I have carried around with me in my phone. He wrote, "Nothing can inhibit your second journey except your own lack of courage, patience, and imagination. Your second journey is all yours to walk or to avoid. My conviction is that some falling apart of the first journey is necessary for this to happen. If you don't walk into the second half of your own life, it is you who do not want it. God will always give you exactly what you want and desire. So make sure you desire deeply, desire yourself, desire God, desire everything good, true, and beautiful." And that's the end of that quote. But it's hard to find that courage, isn't it? And it's scary. On some days when we are suffering loss, uncertainty, illness, financial, relationship, or health difficulties, the best we can do is to dread one day at a time. Sometimes we just have to get through the hour or even a moment. And it's on those days that I hope you reach even deeper for gratitude, even if it's just gratitude for a good cup of coffee or the fact that you woke up at all. Wayne Muller, in his book Sabbath, says there is, quote, "a level of inevitable unknowing in life. We can make plans, but we don't know what exactly will happen. I have learned over and over again in the last 18 years of ministry that the worst things in life can almost never be predicted. The diagnosis, the car across the median, the sudden illness, the bad news phone call. And it is especially on those days that we might do well to remember Thomas Merton's prayer. My dear God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end." I've prayed that a lot in the past year of leaving the rest in church. But I've also remembered Julian of Norwich's promise. All will be well. All matter of things will be well. We, my friends, we are all on a journey, and together we are creating each other's lives. This life, right now, together. Our lives are not a dress rehearsal. This life is the only one we know for sure we will have. So for today, I wish you faith. I wish you courage. I wish you compassion with yourselves and with each other. I hope you will show up, speak your truth, do it with enthusiasm, and not get attached to the outcome here in your beloved community and in the rest of your life. Live your best life now. It is the only one we know for sure we have. Amen, and so may it be.